HOA stole my barn and tools over dues. I had their president indicted for grand theft. The air in Willow Creek was thick with the scent of damp soil and betrayal. Hank Grayson, a third-generation farmer, stood at the edge of his property, staring at the padlocked barn that no longer belonged to him. The HOA, led by Karen Whitaker, had seized it over unpaid dues $237.46, a sum Hank swore he'd paid. They didn't just take the barn. They took his tools, his tractor, his livelihood. The notice nailed to his barn door read like a death sentence. Property of Willow Creek, HOA Karens' signature curled at the bottom, a taunt in black ink. Hank's hands trembled as he ripped the notice down. He'd built this farm with sweat and sacrifice, planting corn under the same sun his grandfather had. The HOA, a recent blight on the community, had swept in with their rules and fines, claiming to beautify the town. Karen, with her manicured nails and corporate smile, was their ringleader. She'd called Hank's farm an eyesore at the last meeting, her voice dripping with disdain. Now she'd gone too far. The confrontation came at the community garden, where neighbors gathered under the guise of a harvest meeting. Hank stormed in, his boots caked with mud, and faced Karen across a row of wilting zucchini. "You stole my life," he growled, his voice low but shaking. Karen didn't flinch. "You broke the rules, Hank. Pay your dues or lose more." The crowd murmured. Some nodded with Karen. Others stood with Hank, their loyalty split like cracked earth. Tension coiled tighter when Ellie, a quiet florist who'd kept to herself, stepped forward. Her hands clutched a ledger, her eyes blazing. "I found something," she said, voice cutting through the dusk. Ellie, the unexpected twist in this saga, revealed she'd worked for the HOA's accounting firm before quitting over discrepancies. She'd kept copies of their books, proof that Karen had been skimming dues to fund her own landscaping business. The barn seizure wasn't about unpaid fines. It was personal. Karen had targeted Hank because he'd rallied neighbors to resist her iron grip. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karen's face paled, but she doubled down. "Lies," she spat, pointing at Ellie. "She's a disgruntled employee." But the ledger didn't lie. Entries showed thousands diverted, with Hank's dues marked unpaid despite his receipts. The crowd turned, their whispers now accusations. Hank saw his chance. He'd already contacted Sheriff Daniels, a childhood friend, who'd been digging into Karen's dealings. The sheriff arrived, cuffs in hand, as Ellie handed over the ledger. Karen's composure cracked as Daniels read her rights. "Grand theft," he said, voice steady. "You're looking at 7 years." The crowd was silent, the weight of justice settling like dust. Karen's husband, a meek man in a polo shirt, stood frozen, his loyalty to her crumbling. Hank felt no triumph, only a hollow ache. His barn was still locked, his tools gone, sold off to cover Karen's debts. The HOA had fractured the community, pitting neighbor against neighbor. As Karen was led away, Hank looked at the faces around him. Some, like Ellie, stood taller, emboldened by truth. Others, who'd backed Karen, slunk into the shadows. The garden, once a symbol of unity, was now a battleground. Hank wondered if Willow Creek could heal. He'd won, but at what cost? His farm was crippled, his trust in neighbors shattered. Ellie approached, offering a small marigold. "For hope," she said. Hank took it, but its petals felt fragile in his calloused hands. The next day, the town buzzed with gossip. Karen's indictment was the headline, but Hank's fight wasn't over. The HOA board, shamed but stubborn, refused to return his barn without a lawsuit. Hank sat on his porch, the marigold in a cracked pot beside him, and realized justice wasn't a clean victory. It was a wound, raw and slow to heal. He'd exposed Karen, but the community's scars ran deeper than one woman's greed. What do you think? Does justice heal a divided community, or does it deepen the cracks?